We've all been there, right? You're facing a tough choice, and the right path is, well, it's just not clear. But imagine that on a massive scale. How do huge global companies make sure they make the right call consistently everywhere? Well, today we're going to dive into the tool they use for exactly that: ethical decision making frameworks. I mean, really think about that for a second. When a company with offices all over the world has a moral dilemma, how do they make sure that a decision in one office lines up with another one halfway across the planet? How do you stop it from all just coming down to one person's gut feeling on a Tuesday morning? That's the big question here.
And the answer, it turns out, is having a guide. Think of it like a map for navigating these really tricky moral landscapes. So let's break down what this tool really is and how it gives them that direction.
Okay, so at its heart, an ethical decision-making framework is just a structured process. It's almost like a moral GPS or maybe a checklist for your conscience. The point isn't to spit out an answer for you. No. The point is to make absolutely sure you've asked all the right questions before you land on a decision. And this is exactly why they're so important. Because let's be honest, when the pressure's on and deadlines are looming, it is so easy to just make a snap judgment. A framework gives you a reliable path to follow. It helps pull out our personal biases and just ensures that the decisions are fair and, most importantly, consistent, time after time. So, what does one of these structured processes actually look like in practice? Well, it's not as complicated as you might think. Most of them are built around a handful of really logical steps. Let's take a look at a pretty typical model. Okay, so here's a classic five-step process. First, and this is a big one, you have to actually realize you're looking at an ethical issue and not just another business problem. Then you get the facts. Who's going to be affected? What are the actual rules here? After that, you start weighing your different options against your company's core values or moral principles. It's only then that you actually make the call. And, this is so crucial, you don't just walk away. You have to reflect on the outcome. What happened? What can we learn for next time? Now, one of the biggest changes in how these frameworks are used came from answering a really simple question. When you're gathering all those facts and looking at your options, who are you actually thinking about? This led to a huge shift in perspective. So the old school way of thinking was all about the shareholders, the owners, the investors, basically the people who own a piece of the company. But the modern stakeholder approach, well, it's so much broader. It forces you to consider everyone who's impacted by your decision. We're talking employees, customers, your suppliers, even the community you operate in. It's this massive shift from just looking at the bottom line to a much more human-centered view of the world. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how does a real company actually put this stuff into practice? Let's bring this down to earth and look at a company that has truly woven this way of thinking into its very DNA. The tech giant IBM is a perfect example. For them, this isn't some dusty ethics manual that just sits on a shelf. Oh no, they actively build their ethical framework right into their main corporate strategy, and, maybe more importantly, into the training that every single one of their managers goes through. And you can really see how their model brings those general steps to life. They teach their managers to specifically identify all the stakeholders, not just the obvious ones. They push them to actually brainstorm different courses of action instead of just running with the first idea that pops into their head. And they really stress thinking about the long-term consequences, not just the short-term win, before they make that final decision. And this really gets to the heart of it. For a massive global company like IBM, which is dealing with countless complex situations every single day, having this kind of structured approach is the only way they can maintain a consistent ethical standard across the board. It truly becomes their North Star. Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway here. The number one goal of an ethical framework isn't to make these tough decisions easy, because they're still incredibly hard. The goal is to make them consistent. It's all about building a reliable ethical muscle that the entire organization can count on, no matter what. So as we wrap this up, I want to turn this back to you. You might not have a formal, written-out process like IBM, but we all have our own frameworks, don't we? So what guides you? What are the steps you take, and who are the people you consider when you have to make a really important decision in your own life? It's definitely something to think about.